Some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist. I wonder what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. From my home, cracked and broken asphalt everywhere. I could have ended up just like that broken road, with a dead end in my path. Thank the Lord that I've got more than that. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing.
Good morning. You are tuned into 1100 WSGI, and this is Lee Marie in for U-Turn Laverne on One Street Over. This is my 6th and final day in a row of doing these shows. I'm so glad y'all could join me all week. We had some amazing guests on, and so if you missed any of those, remember this show is broadcast live on Facebook as well as YouTube. The YouTube link lasts a lot longer. Facebook link only lasts 30 days. But we had Mark Thomas on yesterday. We had the theater owner, Michael Crawley, on this week. We had just a lot of great guests, so I hope that you guys will check out those shows in your downtime this week as you're staying inside and keeping cool from this crazy heat. Anyways, before we get any further, let's go to the Lord in prayer. I have Colonel Chris Orndorff with us today. Colonel, would you do an opening prayer for us?
Certainly. Our Father in heaven, I thank you that we can come to you and address you as our Father. Lord, there's so much to be thankful for. You are our provider, you're our healer, you're our Savior. And Lord, I especially thank you at this time for the United States of America. We are so blessed to live in this land. Father, you've provided so much to us. You've given us so many freedoms here, and I pray that you would give us the resolve to keep what you've given us and to honor you in our lives. Thank you for this time, and I thank you for the freedom to be here and share. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. That is awesome. Thank you so much. So, yes, I said I had a lot of awesome guests, and today is no exception. So that's one reason I love doing the show for U-Turn Laverne, because then I can have on, the people that I want to have on. So it's been a wonderful week. Not to say that the other people who weren't on, but I had to pick. So as far as picking somebody right before the 4th of July, I thought, well, I don't know too many people more patriotic than Colonel Orndorff. So, and I know you're also an expert on George Washington, our father of our nation. So.
I'm not sure about that.
So
I should mention that Young Washington is showing now.
That's right. The Young Washington.
Good luck getting tickets.
Really? Did you try?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
We wanted to get group tickets for our Bible study. And I looked early, and it could not be done. I mean, there's a couple of seats here, maybe a couple there, but if you want to be right under the screen, yeah, go for it.
Well, that's interesting because I know Dawn Bliss went last night, but she's a guild member of the Angel Studios, which I didn't realize until I had her on, that when you do that, then you get certain perks. Like, I think she actually got some free tickets for that.
Oh.
Yeah, because last night all of a sudden she said, "Hey, I have an extra pair if somebody wants to go." So I think Edwin and Martin went. But anyways, so I know she got in. I didn't know that they had that, perks for being a supporter of Angel Studios, but good to know. But anyways, yeah, so Young Washington is a movie that's out in case y'all haven't heard yet. You're going to want to try to get in. I think it's just playing for a limited time, right?
Yes, I'm hoping they'll hold it over because we still are holding out hope that we can get our entire Bible study in.
All right, very good. All right, and then just one other thing to tell you about, because I got Stephen Astaire here as well, and he has the shirt on that is promoting. Oh, yeah, go ahead and stand that up. There you go. Isn't that beautiful? That is really cool. I love that cross on it. And they are having a big thing, a big celebration at Ridgetop. And so I have put that on my Facebook page. So if you want to see the information on that, you can. Let me see, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. today. So that is in Ridgetop. You know where the caboose is, the train and all that?
That's at the park in Ridgetop.
Yeah, there you go. So 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. is that celebration today. But before we go any further, let's go ahead and get back on our topic of George Washington and the founding and anything else that the Lord has put on your heart, Colonel.
Okay, I want to begin with something of a caveat. Last November in Great Britain, I think it's Good Morning Britain, they were interviewing a World War II British vet, and as I recall, the interviewers asked him, "Well, what was all the sacrifices that you and your comrades made? Was it worth it?" And he said, "No. As I look around Britain today, it was not the price we paid was not worth what we see today." And in 2004, Oliver North and a co-author wrote a book called Veterans Lament, which expressed the same thing about our country today. And I hate to open with something like that on such a wonderful occasion as celebrating our independence, but it's a warning to us. And, for me, it's an appeal to keep what we have, to be thankful for what we have. And I want to talk about one of my favorite people, General Washington, but I want to go over this, that there were 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. And by the way, do you know why George Washington did not sign the Declaration?
No.
He was busy preparing to fight the British in New York. He wasn't there.
He couldn't physically be there.
He couldn't physically be there to sign it.
Okay.
But of those 56 signers, 5 were captured by the British, as traitors, and they were tortured before they died. 12 had their homes ransacked and burned. 2 lost their sons in the war. Another one had 2 sons captured. 9 died from wounds and hardships during the war. And I've got 2 examples here of those signers. Carter Braxton from Virginia was a wealthy planter and trader. He saw his ships swept from the seas by the British Navy. He sold his home and properties to pay his debts, and he died in rags. And then Thomas McKean was so hounded by the British that he was forced to move his family almost constantly. And he served in Congress without pay, and his family was kept in hiding. His possessions were taken from him, and poverty was his reward. So, forgive me for being political here, but contrast that with Congress today. People go there to get rich, and when these men swore, their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, they meant it, and so many of them, really paid the price. And it just, we forget the price that people have paid for what we have, and we don't honor it. And we need to do that. And Stephen and I were speaking before the show about 1976, which I remember all too well because that's when my wife and I were becoming serious. And but I remember at the time, they, especially here in the South, there were a lot of programs that were aimed at, if the theme of which was, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then I will hear from heaven and heal their land. But that was the theme. It was a theme of repentance and revival. And I hope that we see that in this time of celebration. But, again, George Washington was such an important figure in American history. When I was growing up, there was no higher person to look to than George Washington. And there were a lot of myths that surrounded his life, like chopping down the cherry tree, and I cannot tell a lie. That didn't happen, okay? But, Washington was the youngest of 9 siblings. And his father, and in fact, his father and his brothers died at relatively young ages, and he expected to die, probably in his 40s. Did not expect to live very long. But God had other plans for him. And, he's so important in American history. I can't believe we've just lost sight of what I grew up with. But Major General Henry Light Horse Harry Lee, who was General Lee's father or grandfather, I can't remember exactly, but anyway, he described Washington in his eulogy in December 14th, 1799, that first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen.
Yeah, and I've been to Mount Vernon, and
yes,
in Mount Vernon, when he lived there, and of course he didn't get to stay there through the war. I mean, he had to leave, and he was constantly gone, and he'd come back. But the house is relatively small for a legendary hero like Washington. His house is not a giant mansion. I mean, it takes up space, but it's not luxurious at all. It's like a farmhouse, really. And I thought for George Washington, you would imagine this giant palatial mansion on the hill. It is not that at all. And so I'm glad I went there to see it, to see how humbly his quarters actually were. I mean, he had a nice house. It was sizable, but it was not the luxurious mansion you would imagine it to be.
I think that's the impression. Anyone who goes there, that's going to be their impression. And the small bedrooms, we're used to these massive master bedrooms, and you go there and it's like, well, this is where he and Martha hung out.
Mm-hmm. And even the entertainment hall is not very big at all. I mean, it's not much bigger than this room here, really. It's very, very, very small and very subtle.
It is. But Washington was not an aristocrat. I get he was a person of means, but he wanted to behave like an aristocrat. Everything I've seen indicates that he didn't put on airs or anything, but he trained himself to be, of a noble disposition. So, and my favorite story about Washington, and I've told this before on air, is that Governor Morris, and that was his name, Governor Morris, was talking to Alexander Hamilton at a reception, and Hamilton, who was very close to Washington, knew him very well. He bet, Morris says, I bet you won't go slap General Washington on the back and say, "How are you, General?" So Morris took up the challenge, and he went up to General Washington, slapped him on the back, and says, "General, how are you?" And Washington just stood there and stared at him. And Morris said, "That's one bet I wish I'd never won." But he was a very proper person. And, there are things that I've learned from reading books about him. One of the things is that if someone comes up to you and you're seated, you stand to greet them. Mm-hmm. You don't remain seated. And I try to do that myself now. But he was, unlike the other founding fathers, they were philosophers, they were thinkers, inventors. You got Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and all of them. But Washington, he was, to quote Larry the Cable Guy, he got her done.
He got her done.
And
to be a producer, right?
He was.
How's that sound? Are you good? Okay.
He was not. As a student in military history, he was not a brilliant general, okay? But he had, just his force of will held the Continental Army together. And it's, amazing to look at that he held them together. He had to fight. It's not just the British. Mm-hmm. He had to fight Congress, because, are we? Do we have the money to pay the troops?
Yeah, there's that.
So he was in a constant battle with Congress. They're always questioning his every move, and at the same time, he's trying to figure out what the British are doing and how can we win this war. And it's like we're going up against the greatest power in the world at that time. And it seemed hopeless, all right? But, they had hope. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sworn their lives, for this cause. And so Washington is thinking, I've got to have a victory, okay? And let me say this. Part of the theme of this interview today, it has to do with divine intervention in the revolution, right?
I would say so, because if you look at it straight off, we're the underdogs here. America is the underdog, and they're going up against the most powerful military in the world at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, if I look back on history, this is a straight suicide mission. If they were to say, "Hey, we're going to pledge our lives and we're going to fight the British," I would be like, "I'm out. I'm going home. I'm getting on a boat. I'm going back to England," because you can't win this.
Yeah,
you can't win this.
Well, okay. There was, when you get to a certain point in your life, if you have a relationship with the Lord, you can look back and see how God directed you at certain points.
There we go.
Okay, you can see the hand of God in your life. But going back to intervention, if you look at Judges chapter 4 and 5, that's Deborah, the prophetess, mm-hmm. and Barak, who was, the general, okay, leading the Israelite forces against the Canaanites who were invading them. You get the impression from chapter 4 that they won this battle through force of arms. But if you read chapter 5, the Song of Deborah, it's entirely, they had no arms. They didn't have any swords. They didn't have any spears. They just went into battle. And what happened was there was evidently a deluge in which there was rain, there was hail, there was wind, there was a flood, and it swept their enemies away. Mm. And so I bring that up to emphasize how God uses weather to favor those, he's favoring, who, to come to their rescue. And let's begin with the first victories of the Revolution. And I have skipped way ahead in what I wanted.
It's okay. You can always go back.
You got me excited here.
Yeah, yeah.
And
you can go back and fill in at the end too. Yeah.
But again, Washington knew he needed a victory, and so you've got the battles of Trenton and Princeton. Okay, so that's when in December 1776 he crosses the Delaware River and surprises the Hessians who were in Trenton. Okay, and he defeats them. And this is interesting for me. My ancestors were participated in the Revolutionary War, and they were fresh out of Germany, still spoke German, and here they are fighting against the Germans there. But that's interesting to me. But anyway, the first victory, he overtakes the Hessians at Trenton, and General Howe thinks, I've got him trapped, because there's it's the ground is not frozen. He can't move to get out. So, I can go in and, capture him, surround him and capture him. And remember, Washington is the pivotal person in the Revolution. It all revolves around him. He's the center of gravity. You take him out, it all falls apart. There's no one else.
When you say the ground is not frozen, does that mean they're stuck in the mud pretty much? Mm-hmm. So mud slows you down. If it was frozen, they could have rolled quickly. But because it was muddy, they were stuck and they couldn't move very fast. Wow.
Exactly. It's what happens at night, it freezes. Okay, the ground freezes, so Washington and his troops, they keep their campfires going, so the British think they're still there. So then Washington goes from there to Princeton, another victory, and, he kind of corners the British general. And so, by the hand of God, the weather turned everything around so that, Washington had his two, really his greatest victories right there, aside from Yorktown. Okay. But, that's just one example of how the hand of God, and Washington acknowledged this. He didn't talk about the Lord the way we did. He referred to providence. That was, instead of saying God did this, he would say, the hand of providence did this for us. And that hand of providence, I'm convinced that he realized that. It goes back to his youth when he was a young officer. Now, if you'll recall, the French and Indian War, all right, and Washington was a young officer in the Virginia militia. And one book I read, I'm not sure about this, all right, was that, Washington was in the disputed area, the Ohio River Valley, and ran into some French, and, some shots were fired, and that's what started the French and Indian War, okay? But, he did participate in this, and it was a place called Fort Necessity, is what they named it. They were in a pitched battle with the French, and he wrote home to his brother Lawrence and said he heard the bullets whizzing past his head, and said the sound of the bullets was charming.
Didn't he show up at one point and he had 4 bullet holes in his overcoat?
I'm getting to that.
We're getting to that. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is.
We'll get back to that in a minute here.
He, General Braddock, okay, you're in the midst, it's the 7 Years' War between France and Great Britain, and it's going on, in Europe, it's going on in the Americas. So General Braddock, who was a very capable British general, comes in and he's going to tidy things up, make short work of it. So he comes to Philadelphia, and I believe it was Washington who cautioned General Braddock, saying, "Look, we have to be careful. The French and the Indians don't fight the way you're used to fighting in Europe." And General Braddock says, "Well, I've got more experience in this. I think I know what I'm doing." Okay, well, Benjamin Franklin said Braddock would have been a much better general on the fields in Europe than he was there. But they're headed toward Pittsburgh, if you will, Fort Duquesne, and they're ambushed by the French and the Indians, and every officer who was on horseback. Of course, when you go into battle, the first thing you want to do, identify the officers, kill them, leave the men leaderless, kill their medics, leave them without medical aid. Okay, and you pretty much won the battle. So that, if you're an officer, you're the first target. So Washington was the only one who was not hit by a bullet, though he had 4 bullet holes that were, in his uniform, yet he was unscathed. He had 2 horses shot out from under him. And so, this, to me, this is a clear example of my favorite psalm, Psalm 91. Okay? It's the truth. If there have been leaders throughout American history who could honestly say, MacArthur was one, there's not a bullet made with my name on it. Okay. Washington was another. Okay. There was a captain in the Spanish-American War with Theodore Roosevelt who said the same thing. He stood up and got his head blown off. Okay. Okay. So again,
when you talk about a volley of shot coming across, it's hundreds and hundreds of shots all at once. So it's raining down pellet,
I don't think that was the case here because in 18th century warfare, the idea is that you do fire in volleys. You've got 3 or 4 ranks of men. The first rank, they fire their muskets. They kneel down, start reloading. Second rank fires their musket, kneel down, start reloading.
Firing line.
Third rank. So you can keep up this continuous fire by firing in volleys like that. And the idea is that the first line that breaks and flees the battlefield, well, they just lost. Okay. So
if they can't keep the rotation going, then they have to flee.
Yeah, if you start losing too many men, but in this case, it was more like a guerrilla warfare type thing. And see, that's what Braddock didn't expect. He thought he's going to go there and have a proper European battle.
So the field was more obstructed then. There were, you're talking about more forest, more hills and things that get in the way of a nice flat volley. So you're trying to get a good volley across, but you've got trees and hills and waterways and dips.
Well, again, I wouldn't call it a volley. It was just fire at will. Okay. And there was an Indian chief who said he told his braves, says, "You kill that man on that horse," pointing to Washington. Okay. And he said, nothing hit him. And, the Indian was convinced he's protected by...
So this is a miraculous situation in a sense. We're
absolutely
looking at, they were targeting Washington on his horse, shot his horse out from under him 2 times, left 4 bullet holes in his uniform, but yet he was not touched by lead.
Exactly.
Wow. I mean, people need to understand the value that we have in this, that God has given us something by providence, as it were, and we have to honor it. We've got to honor that.
Oh, and that we're just touching the surface
We're
here.
Obligated.
Yeah.
I mean, first it's just an obligation, but it also is praiseworthy. I mean, we should feel some gratitude, not just obligatory honor, but we should also feel a sense of gratitude that what we've been given is so precious.
Yeah.
This experiment they call American freedom is something that's sought after everywhere in the world. Why are people fleeing their country to come to America even today? This experiment went the right direction. And I think people, I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And if that doesn't give you a sense of awe and at least a sense of feeling like, you know what, I should be thankful for our Constitution. I should be thankful for the sacrifices these guys made to give us what we have here, celebrating 250 years of freedom. And, you know, we improve it all the time. It's not perfect. It wasn't even perfect from the beginning. But that still doesn't mean that the essential part of this idea that man rules himself. Every individual man is in charge of himself. Every woman is in charge of herself. Every child. We have freedom to operate. We don't have a nanny state. We don't have a nanny king that we're on the dole and obeying. We're not obeying. We're not obedient. In fact, we're rebels from the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to make our own rules and we want to live our own way. And we've preserved that, at least that essential nugget, which is what everybody wants here, you know. But anyway, as we go forward here, the miracle that Washington was not killed after 2 horses shot out from under him and 4 bullet holes in his uniform, when we know that they were commanded to take him out and they were firing at will on a firing line, hundreds of men firing at him and missing. So how does this happen?
Well, that not necessarily missing. Remember, he did have some bullet
He
holes.
had 4 bullet holes in his uniform. That is amazing. And he came out unscathed.
All right, it is 7:30, and I do need to run a little commercial break here.
Stay tuned. We've got more on this because this is a miracle happening here in our history, and we need to look at this.
All right, let's go ahead and thank Barry and Rebecca Richards.
If you've been wanting a chance to sit down and talk with Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty, super simple. Just reach out to them at sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or by BUYRobertsonCounty.com, or call them 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425, or 7424. Or how about just stopping by Kilgore Park on July 3rd for the big Independence Day celebration. We're all going to be out there. They'll be there, and they'd love to answer your questions. Maybe you're wanting to get a free market analysis. Sometimes they have their computer with them, and they can do it right there. Whatever your needs are, whether it's buying or selling. Maybe you want to be a realtor. They would love to talk to you. Brandy Hastings is part of Exit Prime Realty now. That you can find out all about the listings they have or the process of selling your home. You can reach out to them anytime and get in touch with them, but they would love to see you again at Kilgore Park on July 3rd up in Cross Plains. I'll be there as well, and I hope you'll join us. But reach out today to Barry and Rebecca Richards, Exit Prime Realty, sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or by BUYRobertsonCounty.com. Give them a call, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425, and let them know U-Turn sent you.
All right, this is Lee Marie back from our break. We have Colonel Chris Orndorff in the house, as well as Stephen Astaire. And that was U-Turn Laverne's voice, yes, that you just heard. She will be back on Monday. But you can see her tonight at the Cross Plains celebration over there. So there's so much going on. I know we posted a lot. We posted some videos on the Lee Marie page yesterday about the different festivals. There are a ton of things today and tomorrow. Also, I want to tell you that the brand new schedule for Well in the Square is out. We have some brand new classes. Matter of fact, U-Turn Laverne, you've been saying that you want to take clogging. Well, guess what? I went and got the champion clogger, Elizabeth Clark, and she is going to start teaching clogging lessons Mondays in August. So there are 5 Mondays in August, and she is going to be teaching all 5 of those, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. The first 10 people that sign up can get the whole series for $79. So that's a great incentive, and we're just so happy to have Elizabeth come into class. But let's get back to our program. Today is July 3rd, so the celebrations have already started many days and weeks ago, actually. But there's going to be a lot tonight and a lot tomorrow. And so I wanted to bring in one of our most patriotic, cool guys. And so I got them both here. So I got Colonel Chris Orndorff and Stephen Astaire. So let's get back in talking about George Washington.
If you can't get patriotic about this, I can tell you, if you're just coming in, here we are. Why are we patriots now? Well, there's a good reason for it, actually, and it's not all just a bunch of huff and puff. I can tell you there's some real history behind it. We're getting into it with the Colonel, and he's going to pick up right where we left off. We were just talking about George Washington and how miraculous it was that his 2 horses were shot out from under him. The enemy was commanded to shoot him, and they left 4 bullet holes in his uniform, and yet he was not killed. This is amazing. He was not even wounded. Not even wounded. Mm-hmm. And the weather was in their favor in these battles, and just the right way that allowed him to corner the enemy. Amazing story. And if that doesn't give you goosebumps, I don't think anything will.
Yeah. Well, there's another incident of weather, and that took place in Boston, and this was in the spring of 1776. Now, keep in mind that the revolution actually began in 1775 at the Battle of Lexington and Concord. And why did that battle take place, Stephen?
Good question. Good question. I probably don't know the answer off the top. To be honest with you, I'm not good with some part of the history.
No, you should know.
But I should know.
Hey, wanna give him a hint?
The British, it's a Second Amendment issue. The British were coming to seize their weapons.
Okay.
And they said,
this is where
nope,
we have to draw the line here, right?
Yes, that's
Speaking of that, did you see my shirt today?
She has a second.
Yep.
The first,
Go ahead and read it.
you can't defend the first without the second.
There you go. Got the little-
People learn what that means. I'm not going to explain it. Please look that up. Find out what that means.
All right, go ahead, Chris.
Okay,
So they were coming to take their guns away from them.
yeah, that's 1775. That's when it really started, and what it was all about. Earlier in 1776, before the 4th, okay, the British were going to reinforce their soldiers in Boston, and so the ships are coming in, and they have what they refer to as a hurricane. But it was a terrible storm, a southeaster gale that hit the Boston area and disrupted his plans for the attack to, come in and reinforce his soldiers and take back Boston. So again, there we have, the weather factor taking place there. And
So the hurricane hits the enemy. So first, the first part of the weather story was in the other battle where it was muddy and they couldn't move. And so the enemy general thought that Washington was stuck in the mud. Then it froze overnight. Washington kept the fires burning, and then they shifted and they cornered the enemy without the enemy knowing they had moved.
Well,
that was the first
Well,
weather
they went
incident.
out and hit the enemy where they didn't expect.
They didn't expect it. They thought they were still stuck in the mud back where they were before.
Yeah, the fires are still going.
Because the fires were still going. So he was smart enough to say, keep the fires going. It's freezing. We're going to move. We're going to corner the enemy. So that was the first weather event in Washington's favor. And this is the second
well,
weather
actually, now
intervention,
this
or third.
This
even.
was probably the first, okay, in Boston. And then the second was in the summer. So, again, I jumped ahead to Trenton and Princeton. That was like the third.
Well, we've got several weather events that happened just at the right time.
Yeah.
That are in George Washington's favor. And we are able to literally secure ground because of those issues. It wasn't just going out and getting to the enemy. We were able to secure that territory because of that weather event.
Well, I wouldn't say secure the territory, but you were able to go out
still
and
in
get
battle.
them, and keep the battle going. Because, see, look, here the whole intent is we've got to get France to come in on our side. Okay, we've been fighting against France with the British. Now we want the French to come in and fight the British with us.
So we want to show well, so the
You've
French will
got
jump
to
in.
show we can win this thing, but, come in and help us. And, the French are looking for a little payback, of course. And so that's what, Trenton and Princeton were all about is, we got to show that we can do it. And then another one was in the summer of 1776, and Washington was in the Brooklyn Heights. And the British had moved in such a way that Washington and his men were trapped they couldn't get across the river without exposing themselves to the British. And so, let me read what I've highlighted here. Washington, realizing the danger of his position, ordered a nighttime evacuation of Long Island. That evening, about 11 p.m., the wind died down and a thick fog developed, shrouding the American evacuation. And when the fog lifted later that next morning, the British were surprised to find the American soldiers were nowhere to be found. So the Lord sent a dense fog to cover their retreat.
That's awesome.
Right at the time they needed it, the fog comes in so they can escape under the fog of war. That is another goosebump moment in our history. And if you say, when we say the hand of God was moving through this history, and this is a reason why we talk about providence. And I know in history we studied this before when we were kids, but there are real reasons why we talk about the hand of God moving through history. And this is yet another example where the fog comes in just in time so that they can retreat and get away.
Yeah.
And Washington escapes with his men, and he's not stuck again. Once again, he's not stuck, he's not trapped. And it's because of the fog that comes in just at the right moment. Another one.
Yeah, it makes you can't help but, if you're a military historian, you can't help but think about Patton ordering his chaplain to pray for better weather during the Battle of the Bulge.
Yes.
And they got it.
That's right.
So, okay, now here's another one. This is not really weather related, but in 1777, you've got General Burgoyne, okay, who was a well-known, very capable general, and he had 6,000 troops, and they're marching through New York, and they were defeated in the Battle of Saratoga by General Horatio Gates and General Benedict Arnold. Now, there's something that we need to, and this is significant. It was the Battle of Saratoga that convinced the French, yes, we need to get involved. But what most people don't realize is that the real hero of that battle was Benedict Arnold. But Gates got the glory. Well, we have to figure that Arnold was a little peeved at this.
That happens in war sometimes.
Yeah.
The wrong general gets or the wrong officer gets credit.
Yeah, I've personally seen it. In fact, I've personally had it happen. But, but these things happen, and you got to roll with it. But
Benedict wasn't willing to roll with it.
No, he wasn't willing to roll with it. So. But anyway, let me read what I've got highlighted here. The defeat of one of Britain's best generals in North America it says colonels, but it was General Horatio Gates and Benedict Arnold, was a shock to London, but it was viewed as a miracle in Paris, and it was a turning point in the Revolutionary War that brought France into the conflict on the side of the Americans. Okay, so Washington wrote, I most devoutly congratulate my country and every well-wisher to the cause on this single stroke of providence. Okay.
There's that word again, providence.
And Roger Sherman, who was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, wrote, "This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes."
Well, that was really good timing, because you know what I just posted? I just posted and I said, are you related to a founder? If so, post here, because my husband is related to Roger Sherman, the only founder to sign all 4 foundational documents.
Also related
to
several others as
Ethan
well.
Allen,
Actually 4. Ethan Allen and the Vermont.
But that's so funny, because I literally just posted that on Facebook and you said Roger Sherman. But yes, they're related.
I have 4 relatives that signed one of the documents, and I have one relative who signed all 4 documents.
Yeah.
So I guess we're a revolutionary family. That's where I get my rebellious attitude, I guess,
I guess.
And your patriotic spirit.
and my patriotic spirit. Right.
Okay.
That's right.
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. So, well, anyway, here's Benedict Arnold.
So
You wouldn't have done this without me.
Benedict is really upset because he knows how important this battle is. He knows how important this win is. That this win is what allows us to win the entire war. If it wasn't for this battle win, the French may have not jumped in. So this is what got them to jump in and help us. And this is how we were able to win this war.
Yeah.
And so Benedict realizes how important this win was. And because he doesn't get credit for it, he is really upset.
Well,
He knows
he's
how important
upset, but he's also upset he did not get the position he wanted to have following this battle. He, was looking for another command position. He, that for whatever reason, the generals on top, they make decisions that a lot of times troops don't understand. And so he was upset about this as well. So in 1780, he plotted with the British, says, "Hey, I will turn over to you West Point and General Washington." And so they agreed to pay him £20,000, okay, which would have been about $1 million to us. And really, any more $1 million isn't that much, though it still is to me. Don't get me wrong. Okay,
$1 million is a lot of money, but in the sense that to sacrifice an entire country for $1 million today is not enough money by detail.
No,
But that just shows you how angry he was and how hurt he was.
It
See,
should.
don't let that anger and that hurt get to you, even though you know you're right and they're wrong, because this could be the devil's trick to take you down. We have to be courageous and strong, even though we're hurt and even though we're angry.
Yeah.
And Benedict didn't suffer that well. He didn't suffer.
No.
He didn't suffer that well.
In fact, he would have probably been well rewarded in the end had he stuck with the Continental Army. But, he made this agreement, and let me recommend to you, it's on Netflix, a series called Turn.
Turn on Netflix.
And it's, I'm pretty sure it's based on a book entitled Washington's Immortals. Because I read Washington's Immortals, which is a fabulous book. I can't remember the author, but the movie Turn it follows that book just point by point.
Washington's Spies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just strongly recommend it to anyone who's interested. It's it's entertaining, but it's educational. It truly is. But anyway, so he makes this deal with the British, and there's this Major John Andre, British major, okay, who is a spy, and he comes in. Dressed in civilian clothes, and he was detained by a couple of soldiers. It's like, who are you? Where are you going? What are you doing? And so they search him, and they found hidden in his shoe detailed plans for what they were doing. The betrayal of West Point and General Washington. And it was just by this stroke of a couple of soldiers doing their duty that they were able to. And I'm pretty sure what made them suspicious is he was wearing British military boots. Okay, that's what clued them in.
So this spy or this messenger spy is carrying the plan to the traitor's plan, the revolution traitor's plan, in his shoe for the British. Yeah. And he's taking it too. And two regular privates, so to speak, two guardsmen stop him, basically, and they find this out.
Yeah.
And this then how does this get back to Washington then? How do they?
Well, of course, once they become aware of it, they notify General Washington. And again, they look at this as, this is the hand of God. He just rescued, our leader. And
So this messenger was not able to deliver.
oh, no. In fact, he was hung.
Okay.
As
So
a
the plan
spy.
never gets back to general headquarters for the British. And so,
Well, no, the British were well aware of it.
okay.
I think it was probably just, for him to refer to. I think he was going to link up with Arnold
Okay.
in this
So
betrayal.
they had all their commands and their
Mm-hmm.
battle plan laid out and everything. And they captured that and they stopped it from going forward.
Stopped it from going forward.
Wow. Amazing. Another we talk about providence, right?
Yeah.
So there's a reason why General Washington at the time thought that God was on his side. And we've obviously, I've read All Quiet on the Western Front, and you always know that both sides were saying God is on our side, right? Yeah. Both sides were. And, but in this sense, it looks like God really was on Washington's side. God was on the side of the revolution. So many things had to happen. And think of it, this was not an easy win. And it wouldn't have been won at all without these very specific weather points and happenstances that led to our favor and to George Washington's favor. So he was convinced that God was on his side at this point. Yeah. He was convinced.
We only
And
have about 8
I'm
minutes
convinced
left.
at this point in the story that
A lot of notes
God
to
is
get
on
through.
his
We got
side.
8 minutes left, so
It's okay. We got plenty of time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there were other weather events that took place at the let's see, Daniel Morgan. Okay. He defeated an advancing British force that was under General Cornwallis at the Battle of Cowpens. Okay, and it looked like Cornwallis was going to defeat them, but a sudden storm came up, and it caused the river to become impassable, and so the British were unable to cross this river to go pursue the Americans. Okay.
Once again.
All right. Yeah. And, George Washington said, "We have abundant reasons to thank Providence for its many favorable interpositions on our behalf. It has at times been my only dependence, for all other resources seem to have failed us."
Is only dependent.
For all other resources seem to have
okay,
failed
for
us.
people who don't understand what we're talking about, because we're using highfalutin language here, when George Washington says providence, he means the hand of God,
Yes.
literally. That's what he means. And then George Washington was a deist, in a sense. He believed that God was in charge of all things.
Okay, I'm not
created.
sure that he was a deist.
In a sense, he believed God was
Yeah.
in charge.
Yeah.
And God was in charge of history.
Yeah.
In
Now,
that sense.
keep in mind, a
In that
deist would say there is a God, but he doesn't interfere.
He believed God was interfering.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So he made the second step. He came forward to the second step. Every time he says that was his only hope, basically, because everything else was failing them. And if it wasn't for
Congress
this,
wasn't supporting them most of the time.
that they would not have won this war had it not been for what he's saying, the hand of God. This is amazing. This is amazing because this is when we have this whole history of the church and we have all of our different organizations and we have Catholic Church and Protestant Church and we have this whole history of our church. They didn't have all that in America at the time. So he's not leaning back on his regular Baptist ideas. This is way before all that. So we have to really filter all that out and understand this is a man who's coming from nothing. And he believes that the hand of God is in charge of winning this war when everything else is failing. This is insane. It's crazy. Yeah. We should have lost this war. by all respects,
Well,
they should have lost.
The culminating battle, of course, was at Yorktown, and it was Yale president Ezra Stiles wrote, "Who but God could have ordained the critical arrival of the French fleet so as to assist in the siege of Yorktown?" All right, so Cornwallis was expecting to be able to evacuate his troop. He was trapped. He had, Chesapeake Bay at his back, the French and the Americans in his front. But the French arrived just in time to prevent an evacuation. So he had no choice but to surrender. And there
Amazing.
ended the war. But it was just one thing after another. The British, if you look at it on paper and you do the math, the British should have beat us easily. And some military historians who I know compare the American Revolution with our experience in Vietnam. What really helped win the war was, militarily, were guerrilla tactics.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen the movie The Patriot, which I think is based on Morgan's experience, it was the hit and run tactics that really, took their toll on the British. And, so often, Washington, acknowledged this. And after the Revolutionary War, he wrote to the governors of the 13 states and prayed that God would dispose Americans to do justice, to love mercy, and to imitate the charity, humility, and peaceable spirit of the divine author of our blessed religion. Without that, Washington said, we can never hope to be a happy nation. And that reminds me of what James Madison wrote, that we have staked everything on our ability to obey the 10 Commandments.
Really? He said that?
Yeah, he wrote that. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So it sounds a lot like gratitude to me. That they were very
absolutely
grateful, right? They were grateful. And I think we start with that usually. When all is lost and somehow we win anyway, we feel so unworthy, but we're so grateful for that win that we want to do right after that. We want to do the right thing.
Well, they should. G.K. Chesterton, who is kind of a forerunner to C.S. Lewis, I think, wrote that gratitude and thanksgiving are the highest forms of thought.
I believe it. Yeah. And until you get to gratitude, you can't get to praise or obedience.
Mm-hmm.
And in a sense, when you're talking about the 10 Commandments, we're talking about obeying rules, right? So if Madison says this, their gratefulness was so strong, they felt that they now had an obligation to do the right thing.
Yeah.
We only have 2 minutes left. So
okay, one other point, and it didn't stop with the Revolution. And in 1787, they're trying to hammer out the Constitution of the United States, which is a remarkable document. It seemed like, they were not, the meeting of the minds was not taking place. And Benjamin Franklin was 81 years old, and he asked why they had not sought the help of the Father of Lights. And he said, I have lived, sir, a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs the affairs of men. And it cited Psalm 127:1, one of my favorites, except the Lord build the house, those who labor build in vain. Mm. And so, it was Franklin who said, let's pray about this and get it done.
Benjamin Franklin said that.
Yeah.
Wow. Benjamin Franklin asked to pray.
Yeah, he did. And
they need to teach this in school.
if we have just a moment more, one more thing.
We got plenty of time.
Okay.
Got a whole minute.
It was Alexander Hamilton. I've read a couple of biographies on him, and I wasn't sure of his salvation until I just found this, that after was in his duel with Aaron Burr, he was mortally wounded, and he asked for a bishop to come in as he's dying, and Hamilton said, I have a tender reliance on the mercy of the Almighty through the merits of the Lord Jesus Christ. There, before receiving communion from Bishop Benjamin Moore, Hamilton renounced his sins and embraced Christ as his Savior. His last words to his wife were, "Remember, my Eliza, you are a Christian."
Wow. They got to teach this in school, people. This is the hidden history they're not telling you about. This is what they're trying to hide from you. Listen, this is why we are patriots. There's real history out there. You can get to it. Chris, amazing. We got the Colonel here, Colonel Chris Orndorff. Thank you so much. What an amazing show. Lee Marie, do you feel more patriotic right now?
No, this was a great idea to have you on, because this was just really just perfect.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Colonel. And y'all want to stay tuned, because this is the first Friday of the month, which means special edition Go Show. It is Health Freedom Friday. So Pat Samler, the homeopath, is on her way in as we speak. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But for right now, we're going to sign off. So U-Turn Laverne will be back on Monday. But in the meantime, have a great, an awesome, and safe 250th birthday, America. Make sure you are checking in on your elderly neighbors. Watch those kids and those pets in this sun. They can overheat very quickly. So take care of each other. We love you. God bless. You have been listening to 1100 WSGI.